Reread pages 62 and 63. How would you describe Stink's interest in frogs? Give evidence from the text to support your answer. So let's go to page 62 and 63. Judy Moody's younger brother Stink has been finding frogs all over the place at school, at the pool, in his boot, even in the bathtub. When Stink and his friends visit a nature center to learn about frogs, they find out about the first annual Frog Neck Lake frog count. Before he can participate in the late night adventure, though, Stink has to study different frogs and the sounds they make and pass a quiz. Preep, grok, squeak. Stink listened to frog calls on the computer. He listened to frog sounds that he taped on his own tape recorder by sticking it out the window at night. Stink listened to frog calls on the way to school Monday morning and in the car on the way to swim lessons. Preep, croak, squeak. At swim practice, he tried some out on his friends. You sound like a duck, said Webster. You sound like a squeak toy, said Sophie. You sound like a sick banjo, said Riley. Thanks, said Stink. See, spring peepers sound like a squeak toy, and wood frogs sound like ducks quacking. You're quacked, said Webster. Sophie and Riley cracked up. You guys sound like the southern leopard frogs. A leopard frog sounds like a person laughing. No lie. Yeah, but nothing sounds like a sick banjo, said Riley. Nothing except for the northern green frog. It sounds like a loose banjo string. You know, like a rubber band twang. You sure are freaky for a frog, said Riley. Thanks, said Stink. You should marry a frog if you like them so much. Hardy har har, said Stink. So now let's go back and look at our question. How would you describe Stink's interest in frogs? So think to yourself, what does Stink think of frogs? That's going to be your answer. Look over here at our rubric. We're going to restate the question. So we're going to pull some words from the question to put in our answer so it's better to understand and it's complete sentences. We're going to answer that question, so whatever you thought the interest is. And then we're going to give one piece of evidence from the text that supports our answer. So let's start by restating. Look in the question, what are some important words that you should pull out? Well, we know we're talking about Stink. So I definitely want to include that in my answer because that's who we're talking about. And we're not talking about Stink's sister or mom or dad. We're talking about his interest. His interest, what he likes. So Stink's interest, now let's think. Is it Stink's interest in bothering his sister? No. Is it Stink's interest in bothering his parents? No, it's Stink's interest in frogs. That's important to tell so we know, or the reader knows what we're talking about. So Stink's interest in frogs. So we can use that as our sentence starter. Stink's interest in frogs are, and then tell me what you think. So you can type that down here. If he really likes them, you can put that after it. If he doesn't like them, you can put that after it. Then you move on to the next part. Give evidence from the text to support your answer. Now we just read those 2 pages. And if you remember, Stink was talking a lot about frogs. Let's go back and look. Stink was talking about frogs on this whole page. If you remember, he talked about them on the way to school on Monday morning. He talked about them at swim practice. He was talking about them everywhere. He even recorded his own frog sounds at night. So if you think about, does Stink like frogs, that should answer your question. And there are many pieces of evidence on this page that will help you give evidence to support that. Find me a piece of evidence on this page that shows that Stink really likes frogs. How do you know? What did it say in the text to show you that? So go ahead and look through that page. You can either pause the video or you can go back and look in the text on your own. Remember, the text is in Google Classroom. If you click right here, Stink and the Freaky Frog Freakout with the little book next to it, and then you click this button, it will take you to the story that we were just on. Don't forget to check over your rubric and use your little checklist. So if you restate the question, if you use those words, you can put an X. If you told the answer to what is Stink's interest, you get an X, you'll get your 2 points. Did you have one piece of evidence from the text that supports your answer? You get your 2 points. So make sure when you give this evidence, it's supporting what you said about Stink's interests. When you're finished, go ahead and turn it in on Google Classroom.